Think about it, 60 months, dead stop. I'll do 270 million in revenue this year with 75 million in EBITDA. I did 150 million last year in our fourth year with 50 million of EBITDA. I did 83 million, 38 million, 14 million, and all from startup, no invested capital, no debt, and built a war chest of over 60 million in cash in the bank.
Brandon Dawson, a distinguished scaling expert, entrepreneur, and a best-selling author. With over 30 years of experience, Brandon has dedicated his career to helping business owners scale and achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals. As the CEO and a co-founder of Cardone Ventures, alongside business partners Grant Cardone and Natalie Dawson, Brandon has taken startups to staggering heights, turning them into multi-million-dollar enterprises. His expertise is evident in his journey with Odyssey Group, which he founded and grew from 50K to 35 million in revenue, ultimately selling it for an impressive $151 million. One of the most critical parts in business is to choosing the right partner. How do you choose a partner to make sure that it's sustainable for the level of business you want to reach?
You know, partnerships are like the
Welcome back, Alpha Squad, to a new inspiring episode of the Alpha Talks Show, the #1 fastest growing show in the region. Today we have an exceptional Alpha guest who has mastered the art of scaling business and transforming entrepreneurial dreams into reality. Joining us is Brandon Dawson, a distinguished scaling expert, entrepreneur, and a best-selling author. With over 30 years of experience, Brandon has dedicated his career to helping business owners scale and achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals. As the CEO and a co-founder of Cardone Ventures, alongside business partners Grant Cardone and Natalie Dawson, Brandon has taken startups to staggering heights, turning them into multi-million-dollar enterprises. His expertise is evident in his journey with Odyssey Group, which he founded and grew from 50K to 35 million in revenue, ultimately selling it for an impressive $151 million. His methods, strategies have earned him numerous accolades, including recognition from Inc. magazine and Portland Business Journal. But Brandon's journey hasn't been without its challenges, from losing his company to private equity investors to ringing the opening bell at the American Stock Exchange at just 29 years old. His story is one of resilience, innovation, and unwavering determination. Today, he continues to make an impact with Cardone Ventures, managing over $2.1 billion in revenue and partnering with business across various booming industries. His commitment to helping others achieve their goals is at core of his success, and we're thrilled to have him today with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Brandon to the Alpha Talks show. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure and an honor.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, you're a mentor to me, an online mentor. We never met, but you're an online mentor. I really love your journey, the things that you share, how you help people. So I'm really looking forward to have a great conversation with you today. Usually I like to start with, when we launch the episode, when we publish it, people will look at the thumbnail, the title, the graphics, and we see this is an extremely interesting episode. What can you promise them today to gain if they gave us their time?
Well, here's what I can promise. No matter where you're at in the world, if you're excited, interested, committed, dedicated, ambitious enough to create wealth, I've been able to prove that no matter where you're from or who you are or how you were brought up, it's available to you.
Phew, I love that. So let's start in a very quick, who's Brandon in a nutshell? So for people just to get started, then I'm going to dig deeper.
I'm a kid from a little town in Portland, Oregon, which is on the west coast of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And grew up on a walnut orchard, harvesting walnuts.
Mm-hmm.
Going to high school, thinking to myself, I can't wait to get out of this town and I'm never going to college.
Phew. Right away, huh?
Right away, because all my friends were getting jobs. All my friends that were older were getting jobs at tire stores, car dealerships, restaurants. I had been bucking hay and cutting walnuts, and I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. So as soon as I graduated high school, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, the other side of the country.
But what inspired you? Like seeing your friends going to jobs, or what pushed you?
I was not a good student.
Mm.
I knew I wasn't going to work for somebody else my whole life. I wanted to make a lot of money, and I knew nobody that I knew how to make a lot of money. But my mom had married a guy in Minnesota, and he was an entrepreneur, so I would go back and visit. I watched him build a company. And I said to myself, I'm going to do that versus this. And as soon as I was 18, I moved and I started working for his company as a device representative, traveling 11 states in the South. I didn't even know how to use an atlas.
Mm-hmm.
This is back when I was a kid, so there wasn't such thing as MapQuest or Google, none of that. Maps. This was, you had to get an atlas out and draw your route.
And stop in the middle, ask people.
Yeah, that's right. You got to talk to people.
True.
You got to grow up, right? And you got to figure out how to check into hotels, and you got to figure out how to take people to dinner and have adult conversations with doctors trying to sell them stuff.
At young age.
At 18, 19 years old. It was the best experience because I was forced to learn how to exist. I think too many kids are, especially if they come from middle class, they're coddled. They're taken care of. They never learned how to exist. They're so used to being taken care of, right? Especially in the movements today.
Exactly.
It's like everyone has rights. Everyone's entitled. Well, for me, I wasn't entitled to shit. I had no rights, and if I wanted something, I had to go figure it out.
A quick note, before we jump into this episode, I find this incredibly intriguing. On the back end of our YouTube channel, it says around 75% of you who watch this channel frequently over the lifetime of this channel haven't yet hit the subscribe button. I just wanted to ask you for a favor. It helps this channel so much if you choose to just subscribe. It helps us invite guests that give you great value. It helps us scale the production and as well makes this show bigger and bigger for you. So if I will ask you just one favor, and if you enjoyed the previous episodes and you're currently enjoying this episode, could you please hit the subscribe button? I love your support. It's incredible to see all your comments and engagement, and we are just starting. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Thank you so much, and I will repay this gesture by making sure that everything we do on this show makes it bigger, and better. I'm committed to do this promise. Do we have a deal? Thank you so much for subscribing. It means the world to me. And the age of 29, you rang a bell. And that was a great moment. At a young age, I'm not saying these days, because you see these days.
Well, back then I was the youngest, but today you have 15-year-olds that are billionaires.
Exactly. At that age, it's a huge thing.
Not only was it a huge thing at that age, but I was voted least likely to succeed at 18 years old at out of a class of 35 people. So for me to say, I'm going to move, I'm going to one day go to New York, I'm going to go to a tall building, I'm going to sign papers, I'm going to be an acquirer of businesses. When I used to speak my dreams, everyone said I was an idiot. Like, you're a dumbass, dude. Nobody from high school, you don't have a college degree, you don't come from a fancy pedigree, you don't have any real life experience, none of that's going to happen. So at 27, I quit my job making $150,000 a year running a sales team, and I decided I was going to start buying businesses.
But it didn't push you down, didn't put you down, or you wanted to prove them different, like watch me style?
Yeah, I just ignored them, and I thought to myself, I make more money than most people I know. By the time I was 20, I was making more money than anybody I'd ever been friends with. By the time I was 22, I was making more money than most 50-year-olds. So I was running a sales team at 22 of 28 people. So I was making between overrides and commissions, I was making between $150,000 and $180,000. I got married young. I quit my job in 1995, December 15th. I had a 1-month-old, and I had a 2.5-year-old, and I had a 3-month-old with me. And I decided I'm not going to work anymore. When I was sitting around the table with a bunch of older people making less money than me, and me being told I can't make more money because I make more money than them.
Exactly.
I quit December 15th, 1995, sold everything I had, and I decided I was going to go out and try to find somebody that would sell me their business.
There was one thing after you rang the bell, and you lost the company absolutely to investors, ventures. Well, how was this feeling, and what was the lesson out of it?
And interestingly enough, it was at the absolute peak of my career. I had just launched a global company. We were going to make more money that year than we've ever made before, but it was during the 2001 tech bubble break. And my private equity group came to me and said, hey, this deal you did is one of the best deals we've ever seen, but you made a mistake. You put debt in your international agreement, and that triggers an option for us at 44% shareholders to sell the company. And I said, yeah, but it's not really debt. It's more like an advance. They said, yeah, and if you'd used the word advance or prebate or rebate or joint venture, we couldn't have done anything. But because you used the word debt, we get 100% of our money back. We get 100% of the 100% that we put in, and we get 12%. So we're going to sell the company for as fast as we can to get all that money out, because they weren't getting any bonuses because of the tech bust. And so basically they shotgunned my company. So I left, I tried to buy it back, and then September 11th happened.
Oh shit.
So then it was almost like the whole world reset. And they sold my company, and I had to start over.
What was this feeling? Or what did you learn from it?
It was the worst feeling of my life, and I was super pissed, right?
You were top of your career.
Oh, I went from 6-time fastest growing private company, Inc. 500, 7 times fastest growing West Coast company, 3-time Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year nomination, 5-time Inc. Power Hire Award. I was screaming at 8, 9, 10, 11. The world's melting down and I'm blowing up. And so you go back to 2001 and when it all happened, I was on that track record for 2008, 9, 10, 11. But what happened is it all went away overnight. And I was working on deals that would have made this company worth $1 billion within another 3 years. So I went from thinking in May of 2001, I was going to be a billionaire by 2005 to literally starting over. And I was pissed at them until I realized I'm the one that made the mistake.
And it cost a lot.
And it cost me a lot. So I decided instead of giving up on my 2008, 9, 10, 11 dreams, I was just going to retool how I did it. I was going to create a business system that allowed me to start a business without needing anybody else's money. I was going to share the success of the business with my customers. I built the first decentralized, community-based equity structure.
That's the
didn't
Odyssey
exist.
Group? That's the Odyssey Group.
Yeah, it didn't exist. I fought with the SEC. I got it approved, and I launched that business. Today you would call it you would call it a decentralized ownership structure. And democratized, because I went out to my customers and I said, I'll build what you need. I'll create a management company. I'll swap you upside rights in your business and a management fee for you, 250 of you owning my management company with me, and I'm going to bypass the financial people in the middle. We're going to do our own roll-up strategy. It's going to be decentralized. It's going to be democratized because you guys are going to vote on what services and systems. And I ran it on a ledger that was a paper ledger.
Yeah.
But I was a Reg D business, so I fought with the SEC until it got approved. I launched that model in 2005 with the idea that if I could innovate it back in the hearing care space, I could innovate it in any space. And I wasn't going to use anybody's money. I set a whole bunch of rules for myself. The business had to fund its own growth. And the reason I had those rules is because I lost my company because I'd raise capital to grow, raise capital to grow, raise capital to grow. Well, when I went back and looked at all the companies that these guys had invested in, Warburg Pincus, this huge private equity group, only like 20% succeeded. The rest all got folded into other investments. So most of those consolidation theories did not work. So I knew you could, if you got big enough, you could make it work. But getting big is where most companies fail because they don't have all the resources and tools. And money is the least of the problem. It's talent, it's systems, it's technology, it's all these, it's investment thesis, it's having credible people that know what they're doing at the right point in time. So I went and looked at all those businesses that failed, and I said, if I could create a system that allowed the 31 million small businesses, now a $12 trillion space, have the benefits of a big platform company that had strategy, had marketing, had sales, had people development tools, it had operations, professional operations, it had professional finance, it had leadership, it had data, knew what it was looking for, it had operating systems, and it had an investment thesis, like where do we put our money and how do we invest in the right things at the right time to get the right result. And if I could create that model, I could apply it to any industry, but I have to prove it first. And that was the business I launched in 2004. I have a question.
It's very hard to grow a business without getting investments. Yeah. How do you manage that? I'll tell you why. From my experience, I'm launching a company in the US with a partner over there. And the first thing that comes on the table, okay, let's have a deck, and we raise investments right away to manage our operations. How do you manage to grow from 500K to 35 mil without that? Give us some nuggets.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I created an algorithm. Okay, if I generated $1, I wanted to tithe 15% of that dollar to 20% of that dollar into cash reserves.
Okay.
So I had to build a business that generated $1, made me 20 cents on the bottom line, and gave me 20 cents that I could put into a reserve account. So I stuck to that discipline from day one, and I built a reserve account, and I wanted to have, my first target was 30 days of cash in the bank. So if my revenues went to zero, I could be in business for 30 days. Then second target was 90 days. Then third target was 180 days. And then it was 360 days. And then it was 18 months. When I launched Audigy, I never thought, because see, when I was building my other company, I was panicked for payroll. I was always raising capital. I was always behind the eight ball. I was always needing money. I spent 70% of my time trying to figure out where to get money versus
cash flow.
Versus trying to build the business. So it was such a distraction. I thought, well, if I didn't have to put any energy on raising money, instead I'll put all my energy on getting a client. I'll get a partner, and I'll engineer the business to where the business responsibly can grow at the right levels, and I'm going to manage that so I can build my cash reserves. Within 36 months, I had $5.5 million in cash sitting in a checking account, and my controller came in and he says, "Hey, Brandon, we got a new problem." I said, "Oh no, we got our first problem in 3 years. What is it?" He said, "We got $5.5 million, $5.8 million sitting in the cash account. I don't know how to manage cash."
True.
It was just sitting in a checking account. So then I went and got a CFO that was retired. I started having him come in and spend an hour a week. Paid him $150,000 to spend an hour a week with my guy, who ended up moving from my accountant to my controller to my CFO at $30 million. And then he left, and I brought in my friend, who is a very successful CFO, to help me sell the company.
Wow. Brandon, a quick question for the people. Everybody wants to scale. It's the word that okay, I have a business, I want to scale. But if you look at companies, what are the indicators that the company is ready to scale? What kind of indicators?
Well, let's talk about statistics.
31.5
small to mid-sized businesses in the United States, and you just added a new one to it. Okay?
Exactly right now.
97% of all those businesses fail within 10 years. 2/3 fail in the first 5 years. So when you think about it, 25 million of those businesses still have the founder, and that founder makes less than $72,000 a year.
True.
They could make more working in their job. Most of those founders started the business because they didn't want a boss, didn't want to be told what to do, didn't want to be held accountable, didn't want a limitation on their earnings, and yet they make no money.
True.
25 million work by themselves. 5.3 million have between 2 and 12 employees, and they're under $3 million in revenue. That's about the spot. So you think about it. 30 million businesses are at 3 million or less.
Yes.
So if you're under 125 million, you're trapped. Basically 1.8% or over 3 million. So as you get bigger, it gets harder. And as it gets harder, and the faster you get bigger, the faster you break. That's why 97% break within 10 years, because they break through and then they break under the weight of themselves. So the core disciplines of learning how to build cash, build reserves, invest in the right things, and making sure those reserves are in place. It's the only backstop you can have.
True.
So going into starting a business, you start it with the idea, using our format, I am going to force the business to have a year and a half of cash always sitting in the account. Well, what happens is, as you get bigger, you can take that money out because your confidence is high, and you can buy something that helps accelerate your growth. So look at Cardone Ventures, for example. So in 2009, I was doing so well when the world was melting down. I was doubling in revenues every single year. That's the Inc. 500, Inc. 5000. So I went to FTI. It's a $1 billion global consulting company. And I said, I want to do a research project on 10,000 businesses. I want to understand what allows them to grow, what causes them to break, what allows them to break through, what is the differentiator between the 95, 97% that fail, the 3 to 5% that succeed. So we did a project for 3 years. I hired a bunch of kids out of Stanford and Wharton and University of Portland, and I hired a team of people, and we hired FTI, and we spent 3 years and looked at 10,000 industries and surveyed thousands of entrepreneurs. When you made a decision, what happened? When you were confronted with this, what'd you do about it? And what I found is I found these fractional variables in decision making at strategic points in time in the growth of the business. And I started leaning into those and force weighting them across the scaling process. And that went on from 2009 to 2012. Then I started we reverse engineered a bunch of M&A strategies, roll-up strategies, disruption strategies, convergence of business strategies, convergence of technology into these micro businesses and how big they grew. All the advantages of big companies that had the leverage to do it, but the little guys never get the leverage. Then you look at the behavior in the marketplace. Private equity buys all the 25 to $100 million companies. So they do it in the insurance space, they do it in every services space, and they try to build that to what's a platform company, 125 to 175, what's a platform company have? So I asked that question. Platform company has professional leadership. Platform company has a strategy. Platform company has a marketing team. Platform company has a sales conversion strategy with automation. Platform company has people acquisition strategies. Find, attract, align, develop, and retain people.
True.
Oh, all of a sudden I realized there's all these algorithms to what gets created to be a platform company, and they're the most valuable businesses private equity buys. In fact, if you go back 5 years ago with all the SPACs, there was 368 SPACs. They could not de-SPAC because they couldn't find targets because there was not enough $100 million EBITDA companies. So I had the idea, I can build a $100 million EBITDA company faster. They can find one, negotiate one, and spend $2-3 billion for it because the competition was so strong, it was pushing valuations up. So I made a decision. I'm going to take all my research, refresh the research with IGS out of Boston, went and sold my business for 77 times EBITDA.
Super amazing. 77 times EBITDA.
To a Danish public company that was trading at $17 a share the day they bought me. 36 months later, we integrated in 8 countries and they were $94 a share. We had a $3.5 billion of value, and that's where I tested my international skill set with everything we created. And then I left that and started this business with Grant Cardone in 2019, 60 months ago.
How did it happen, Grant Cardone? Because what I read through, you went to 10X conference, and then knock. What happened?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's really important that I understood something very soon in my next iteration of growth. Doing it by yourself is hard. It took me 14 years to go from 0 to 35 million. I wanted to go from 0 to 500 million to $1 billion, okay? And I didn't want to wait. Well, my wife, who's half my age, says you should look at some of these social media guys. They have all these connections and relationships. So I started looking. I had like 112 followers on social media. I didn't use any social media. And so I went through, we had her, she put together a list of 25 personalities that she knew from doing her research. We went through each one of them, and most of them were bullshitters. Most of them were like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to build a company. Hey, we're going to do this. Hey, motivation. But none of them actually, their business was just their events. They didn't have a business. The more I saw that, the more my confidence went up because I realized, wait a minute.
I can add freaking value.
I got the credibility.
Yeah,
I just don't know how to do the social media. So she put in front of me a couple big names. I went to them. I looked at what they were doing. A lot of them had these dysfunctional relationships. Now, here's one of the things I did know from the research I did. Those 10 elements, it starts with strategy and ends with investment thesis. If they're disconnected, they train wreck a business. This is the whole thesis, How the Mighty Fall from Jim Collins.
Yeah. True.
And by the way, the company that bought me, that went from 17 to 94, when we left, they went to those 10 elements and they put new people in to take the business to 10 billion, and they put them all back into a silo and they drove the business back down to $20 a share. And it happened within 12 months.
And it proves that. Yeah.
It proves that when you try to build your business in a silo with a bunch of different opinions and nobody knowing what they're doing and they're not working towards specific targets, you will wreck your business. So knowing this and looking at some of these scaling experts that have a friend in marketing and a friend in sales, but it's all disconnected, I knew there's no way that's going to work. Then she landed on Grant Cardone, and she's like, look at this guy. He's actually got a sales training business. And so she turned a video on and showed it to me. And the first video I saw with Grant, I was like, baby, there's no way I can work with that guy. He's got his hat on sideways. He's running in front of his jet with money guns going, hey, Grant Cardone here. And I'm like, I can't work with that. That's it's nonsense.
Different perspective, true.
Yeah, I'm a traditional business guy. True. I look at that and I'm like, well, whatever, man, that's crazy. So a couple months later, I came in her office. I go, what are you working on? She goes, I'm working on this Elena Cardone couples thing. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I started working on it with her, and I started seeing Grant Cardone through Elena Cardone in the kids' eyes. I'm like, actually, he's a good dude. So she talked me into reading 10X Rule, listening to it. I wasn't going to do it, but she made me do it. And then 15 minutes into the 10X Rule, I'm like, this guy's legit. He knows what he's talking about. We need to go to his conference and check it out. And that's what we did. I bought $35,000 tickets online. I showed up at the conference. They had no idea who we were. We sat in the front row so that we would be seen visible if we wanted to be, with the intention that if we saw the 5 things I was looking for, we were going to approach them about partnering.
And it happened.
I saw the 5 things the first half day.
That's how you grew Cardone Ventures in
Yeah.
a very short period of time.
Think about it, 60 months,
Yeah.
dead stop. I'll do 270 million in revenue this year with 75 million in EBITDA. I did 150 million last year in our fourth year with 50 million of EBITDA. I did 38 million, 83 million, 38 million, 14 million, and all from startup, no invested capital, no debt, and built a war chest of over 60 million in cash in the bank.
How did this happen with the framework that you've put?
Yeah, because I already had all the engineering. And here's the thing. Those 10 elements I talk about,
Yeah.
first is strategy. No small businesses deploy strategy until they're 15 to 25 million because someone's sitting around going, it's so hard to grow. We can't make money. What do we need to do? And they bring an outsider who says, you know what you need? You need a strategy.
Exactly.
Well, if you implement the strategy before you start your business,
You have a roadmap.
you have less tension in growing the business. You have better targets. So when I went, and then what's the second? Second was marketing, promotion. What was the third? Sales. What's Grant a global leader in with 25 to 28 million followers all over the world? Marketing and sales.
True.
What was my weakest spots? Marketing and sales. What was my strengths? People acquisition, business structure and organization, strategy, finance, leadership. And just so happens that one of the speakers at GrowthCon, one of the featured speakers was John Maxwell, who's known as the global number one leadership in the world. And John and I are extremely close because 12 years ago, I helped him double the size of his company. And we became close. Like he and I, he's like a second father to me. So he went up to speak, and after he was done, he pulled Grant aside and he pointed to my wife and I. Ooh. And Grant's like, what's going on? And he had us come up side stage in front of 35,000 people. And he's pointing at us, and Grant's like, what's happening? And then we went and sat down, and then John texted me on the way back as he got in the car. He said, I told Grant Cardone, I pointed you out, and I said, if you get a chance to meet those two people, of anybody in this stadium, if you get a chance to meet those two people, here's a promise. Anything they tell you is the truth.
Poof.
So Grant came up to me at the end of the first day. He's like, I want to meet you. And I was like, yeah, cool. Once we hit the 5 things, I tell you, this is why it's good to have a great partner. Once we checked the box of our 5 specific things that we were looking for, that we saw the first half of the first day, I looked at my wife. I'm like, we saw it. Let's go. And she's like,
done.
She said, you're going to listen to me now. I go, what do you mean? She goes, we're going to do the hot chick thing. I go, what's the hot chick thing? Settle down, act like you don't like it, and let it come to you.
Exactly.
And I literally said, when can we go talk to him? When can we go talk to him? When can we? And she's like, settle down. Do not look like you want to approach him. Let him come to us. The end of the first day, he said, hey, I want to meet you guys. By the end of the second day, we took pictures. He's like, I really want to meet you guys. By the end of the third day, he was like, I have to meet you guys. And then we went to the real estate conference, and he sat down next to me, and he goes, well, you got to go to dinner with Elena and I. We got to figure out what your story is. And it was at that point where we started talking to each other. And I said, I have something that could complement both of us. And that evolved into a partnership 60 months later. Wow. Over the 60 months. That's worth, our company at the end of this year will be worth $1 to $1.5 billion. And it's not just one company, because I'm actually in Abu Dhabi and Dubai here in the region for one of our brands that we invested $1 million in and changed the name from Streamline to 10X Health, bought another company that I put $1 million in. So I'm $2 million into this venture. We'll do $130 million this year in our third year in business with $50 million of EBITDA. We did $75 million last year with $25 million, $25 million our first year with $5 million of EBITDA. So think about it. I've got less than $2 million into this business. And at the end of this year, it's worth $750 to $1 billion. And we just announced a partnership that we invested almost $10 million into that puts us in 46 countries overnight for our 10X Health brand. And we're going all over the world right now and setting up partnerships and relationships.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah.
These results are amazing. You contributed from a percentage standpoint to your track record and Cardone record and history and brand, or also to the framework that you've implemented. If people are looking at us, okay, we can implement the framework, but we don't have the reputation, the credibility that we can go do partnerships with anybody. How you contribute this success, percentage-wise, on an honest basis?
Yeah, so on an honest basis, I launched this business 60 months ago with my business partners, plural, Grant and Elena Cardone, and Natalie and I, my wife. We have run over $7 billion of businesses through our education platform.
True.
On average, we help our businesses grow 30 to 100% in the first year. Because we remove the constraints, the tension, the wrongdoingness out of the business, and we let the business breathe. So our reputation is, if you come in and work with us, we will help you grow and scale your business. In the process of doing that, if we find a product company or a service company that we know could be a lot bigger, a lot faster, we partner or take a position in them, and then we give them the resources to do it bigger, better, faster, more valuably, right? So if you're an individual and you're out there struggling and you're trying to figure it out, that's why we created the 10X Business Summit. So you can come in for 3 days and learn the elements across the 10 elements and learn how to deploy them in your business. And what I've done is I've reverse engineered literally from 125 million down to startup. There's those 10 macro elements, there's 76 sub elements, and there's 240 specific things you need to do. So imagine if you come and you're trying to build your 10-story building from 1 story up, and you keep adding and adding and adding, what's going to happen to your structure?
The foundation.
It's going to, as soon as it starts to crack and settle, what do? You're like, stop. Now you either need to re-engineer or you're just trying to hold it together. If you come and learn how to first set the target, I want to be a 10-story building or a 5-story building. What's the value of that? What's my occupancy? Just like you would not go build a multifamily apartment complex without engineering it on the front end and running the mathematical equations on the back end once you ramp up occupancy. And that gives you your ROI. Well, it's pretty simple. Nobody does that for a business.
Exactly.
They just start it and hope it works out. So they never catch an ROI because there's no target. So the easy answer is this. If you're in business and you have a good product and you have a good service and you're a good person, because the most important element of scaling is if it's not legal, moral, ethical, or compliant, you're going out of business.
True.
It's eventually going to catch up to you. You can outrun it for a while. It'll eventually catch up. If you're a good person and you're a people first leader, not I'm the big shot, I'm the big deal leader, but a people first leader, you can attract better people. So there's certain characteristics that if you just understand the laws of physics, gravity, if you just understand, you can go collaborate with anybody. Collaboration is the highest currency of any amount of money. And if you can't become a collaborator to somebody, you can't collaborate with other people. If you think your shit's so good and you think you're so smart and you think you're so great and you think you're the next best thing and you can't actually connect and collaborate, you won't attract anybody to you, which is why you struggle, because nobody wants to see that person succeed.
True. I have another question. The name Cardone relates to real estate, sales, and marketing.
And now business.
So whenever people hear this, they say real estate. What are the industries that Cardone Ventures work in?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you think about what we've evolved to, right? You have the real estate and you have the business. So Grant had his sales and marketing company and he had his real estate. Well, since partnering with Grant, he has been able to focus so much attention on his real estate. He's the only human being on this planet, by the way, that's raised $1.5 billion. We are the most active multifamily purchasers in the United States right now against the big boys. He's pulling off, he just bought another 350 million in transactions. We have another billion in the pipeline. He's the most active buyer. He's been able to put his attention, and he's the world's greatest negotiator, by the way, and he's raised $1.5 billion on his crowdfunding platform just from his community. We don't pay any commissions to third parties. We don't have anybody else involved in our equity, just our constituency, just our collaborators, just our clients, our customers. Well, on the business side, we're building a multi-billion-dollar portfolio over there. And so what's in that portfolio? It's every kind of business you can imagine.
Everything.
Because the fundamentals of building a business. Let's look at the reason that businesses go out of business. The top 3 stated reasons are no demand for my product or service, can't find any good people, can't get money.
True.
Okay. Who starts a business without at least understanding if there's demand for the product or service?
Or not.
Somebody who's a moron.
True.
So who's going to get money? Their friends and family.
Exactly.
Then they lose it. Who's going to work for them? Why would anybody go to work for a business owner that can't prove there's a demand for their product or service? So what you end up with is a bunch of companies Think about the tech space. You have all these technicians who go out and start all these tech companies. They raise all this money and they build all this technology, and it never actually sees the market because they never first identified if there was a customer demand for it, or went out, like, why would I ever pioneer and start a business from scratch unless my confidence was so high I was going to dominate the space? The best way to start a business is to model, mimic, and master what somebody else has already proven works.
True.
And let the arrogance go. If you don't know how to do it, go work with someone that's doing something interesting, that's doing something fun, that's finding success. And instead of thinking to yourself, I'm going to go learn it in there and then compete against them, actually go in and say, if I prove myself to you, would you become my partner in another area of the country? Or would you be an investor and I'll launch you in a different area? Or bring a new product or service in and I'll be your partner? Like, open up the conversations if you're really interested in being successful, instead of stealing other people's ideas or going in with bad intentions. Because if you go in with an open mind and open intentions and you're a good person and you execute, that's the number one thing small business owners don't have.
Exactly.
People who can come complement the business and do well. So what happens as soon as they find that person, and that person becomes prevalent in the business owner actually gets terrified because they're key person dependent, and they start treating them poor. And then what happens? Between 8 and 15 million, those people leave, just like most owners left, and they go start their own business. And they continue to repeat the broken cycle that happens and happened to them. And so it's all about mindset. If you have a mindset that's broken or constrained or has friction, resistance, anxiety, stress, fear in it, you're going to suffer. If you have a mindset of abundance and you learn to communicate with people and draw the right people in, you will explode and grow and create massive value.
I love that. I'll touch a little bit about personal things. You work with your wife.
Yes.
That's something not standard, and sometimes it's very hard. How do you manage this?
Well, this is where Elena Cardone, because she's my third wife. Yeah. I didn't manage it in wife one or wife two, and I didn't want a wife three to break up. Yeah. I wanted a wife three for life. Okay. Oof. So we needed to do something different. And what Elena did is she has this exercise where I list the things I want in life. Mm-hmm. My wife lists what she wants in life. And then in the middle, we list what we want. And what you agree to do is 70% of what we want, and then you give each other permission to pick the 30% of what's really super important to you. And so we went through that exercise. But you know what's happened? We do it every single year. We do it with Grant and Elena and Natalie and I together. And you know what's really super cool? That 70% is all four of our goals. So we want to go create a $50 billion to $100 billion portfolio of multifamily and businesses. We want to create the next new age KKR or Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah. We want to have our own 300-foot yacht that we're going to own together. We want to have our fleet of aircraft. We want to have happy, healthy, loving marriages. We want to have, in Grant and Elena's case, 2 remarkable kids. Natalie and I may want to start a family. I've got 3 beautiful daughters with 3 grandkids. I've kind of been there and done that. But Natalie and I have plans to potentially start a family at some point. So what you do is you start, if you're really on the same page, you start forcing your energies into what you both want, and that becomes a huge priority. And then you give each other permission to do the things you individually want, but that's not really priority, because if we're both winning, we're having such a great time. It's when people get distracted. I'll tell you a couple different things. When they get distracted and they're not pulling together, they create conflict. The other thing is when they let their ego get in the way. Mm-hmm. This is why people, they try to do the same shit. I don't want to do what my wife does. She's the operator of our company. She's the president. She holds the meetings. She puts the discipline. She's in charge of hiring people. She's in charge of the teams that hire. She's in charge of execution. I'm strategy. I go out and meet with all the potential collaboration and partnerships. I go get massive contracts. I do the acquisitions with my team. I do the finance side with my team. So marketing and finance and sales is mine. Back end operations is hers. I don't even want to go get involved in her side of the business because that's her expertise. She's grown into that. She's become unbelievably remarkable at it. And we're pulling the company in the same direction. So I'm actually multiplying through her while I'm going out and being the best version of me. She doesn't try to come over and do what I do. And I don't try to go get involved in what she does because we're complementing each other. Now you add Grant and Elena to that, and we're multiplying through all 4 of us across all aspects of the business, which, by the way, Grant's marketing business is now 150 million from 50. So if you look at our enterprise, when we partnered, it was 50. Together now we'll do 400 to 600 million, 450 to 600 million.
Impressive.
And the real estate fund has raised $1.5 billion and it's over $5 billion. So he can focus on what he focuses on. Now, what does he do for Cardone Ventures? Well, every time I want to figure out how to market or position or meet somebody or get connected, Grant picks up the phone or he comes in with me and he shows me how to do it. And this is how we've continued to grow the company because he is being the best version of himself with me.
Yeah.
What do I do for Grant? I go in and help operationalize his guys, and I work with his team as though they're my team, and we all work as one family, one unit, all targeting to hit the billions of dollars because I can show them what the value of the company's worth.
True.
And now we're working together. And when people talk about, well, what's it like working with a Grant or a Gary Brecka, who when we bought Gary Brecka's business, it was a little $2 million business. Gary Brecka now has the Ultimate Human podcast.
True.
He's got 1.5 billion views. Nobody knew who he was 3 years ago. Yeah. Grant put him on a stage. Grant promoted him. Grant connected him to all of our constituency, our clients, and then they became 10X Health clients, and then Gary did his job. And Gary's job isn't sitting in a room with two customers talking about their health. Gary's job is to be on the world stage promoting how we can change lives through health and wellness and preventative medicine and longevity. And so now you get Gary doing his best thing, you get Grant doing his best thing, you get me in the middle trying to keep it all together with my team and my wife, and all of a sudden, what do we have? We have a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that's never raised a penny for the business side, unlike the which is a new thing because we're on the road right now talking about Cardone Equity Group.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to launch our private equity group because we have the $7 billion of businesses.
True.
We have all these business owners we're going to start co-acquiring businesses with. We have the 10X Health, which is our first pop-out portfolio with another 10 coming behind it. So it is my expectation that in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have a $5 to $10 billion valuation. And we're out talking to the world about it right now because we're forging alliances, relationships, and partnerships in real estate, in business all over the world, and in new ventures. And so when you think about what we're planting the seeds to our farm is a $50 to $100 billion portfolio. And what we're collecting right now are relationships between real estate investing, business investing, CEOs and entrepreneurs that want to tap into our global presence and global marketing, and operating companies. So you could be 1 million in Abu Dhabi and come to a program that we'll have at the end of the year, and we'll teach you how to grow and scale your business and maybe even bring you into the US.
I love that because you talk a lot about partnership and collaboration. One of the most critical part in business is to choosing the right partner. You chose Cardone, he chose you. That's a critical thing.
Yep.
You are two sharks in different areas. How do you choose a partner to make sure it's sustainable for the level of business you want to reach?
Partnerships are like the marriages.
Yeah.
You got to go through the same exercise. Grant is only good if he's the best version of Grant. My wife is only good if she's the best version of herself. Elena's only good if she's the best version. I'm only good if I'm the best version. So you have to remind yourself that the thing that you're doing together is bigger than any of the things we would have done individually. And we have to lean into the best version of ourselves in order to grow so fast without stress, friction, resistance, and anxiety. So in order to find the best partners in the world, you first have to dedicate to be the best partner in the world. One of my intention statements is, and I use it every day, it is my intention to be the best partner anyone's ever had, because I've had 400 partners now in my career. I've never had a lawsuit, ever. I've never had a sanction, FTC, SEC, IRS, nothing.
Wow.
Because if I'm a good partner, I'm a good partner to the IRS. I pay my taxes. If I'm a good partner to the FTC, I don't violate their rules. I can be smart enough to figure out how to get around them, but I don't violate them. If I'm a good partner to another human being, I'm looking after their interests, and if they get their interests, I'm going to get mine. So to me, when I sit down and there is disagreement or a lack of alignment, it's simply, hey, where are we both out of being the best version of ourselves, and what do we need to do to support each other to become the best version? And then you don't have you're going to have so much stress and so much resistance and so much anxiety when you're building a business all the time. Mm-hmm. Why not choose that and make it productive than create so much friction and anger and frustration that it sucks the life out of all the good that's available? And this is why I say, if you're going to ask me the number one thing for somebody to choose to get big and to create value, it's to drop your ego. I talk about the intellectual spectrum, intellectual ignorance and arrogance. When business owners have just enough success, they think they got it all figured out. Well, here's what I can tell you. From startup to 125 million, there's 7 break points. To $1 billion, there's 11. Each break point is a new cycle. You enter it as a different person, you exit it a different person, and the minute you think you got it figured out, you're statistically going out of business. I know this because 10,000 CEOs and entrepreneurs and business owners that started succeeding and started growing, it's always the thing you don't know that's going to bite you in the ass, and that's a majority of all the things that happen all day long, and then you go, shit, I wish I would have known that, and you either reset or you retreat. It's a fact. And remember, 97% retreat and go out of business. So we know the characteristics, the mindset, the activities, the actions. And what it takes is someone who wants to operate on the right side of the intellectual spectrum. So again, left side is ignorance and arrogance. I either don't know, and I don't know. It's not bad or good. You got to recognize it. Or it's arrogance, bad, arrogance, bad. The right side is awareness and curiosity. Well, how do you develop your awareness? You do it through your team to say, is the steering wheel shaking as we're picking up speed? And if so, could we back off to where it's not shaking and assess what's going on? And if you just continue to do that, because the actual cycle of building a business is a 6-step cycle, and most people skip the 3rd step. They start, grow, expand, transform, and exit. True. Well, in the expansion, 97% fail because they don't know what got them there. If they go start, grow, optimize, at each break point, you got to optimize. And you got to know what your targets are. That includes cash reserves. It includes revenue per employee. It includes profitability matrix. It includes all these there's 5 things we look at every single day. And if you know what those 5 things are and you look at them every day, you can tell as you're building your business if you're building into value or if you're building away from value. So many people start chasing the growth curve. They sacrifice the revenue per employee. They sacrifice the profitability, they sacrifice the cash reserves, and they sacrifice the cash build.
True.
Because they're being told deficit financing is okay. The most important thing is to grow, scale, and get big. Well, think of the number of companies. Sure, you're going to look at Amazon and Uber and try to compare to them.
True.
What about WeWorks?
Exactly.
And remember, 97% of all small businesses under 125 million go out of business all over the world. So do you think that's a good strategy? No. A good strategy is a disciplined approach at starting, growing, scaling, optimizing, expanding, transforming, and then exiting, which is how you get 77 times EBITDA.
True.
And if you're collaborating with the right people, your valuation goes through the roof because I didn't get bought for what I was doing in revenue and EBITDA. I got bought for what I could contribute to the buyer.
True.
So if you know how to sell your business into value and you build it for that, then you can have a remarkable exit that's easy, it's successful, and it works. And when you have that reputation, you get a lot of people that want to work with you.
Oof, I love that. What brings you to Dubai?
Yeah, so we are actually here for our 10X Health business.
Can you tell us more about the 10 Health?
So we had this vision. Grant Cardone, myself, and Gary Brecka had this idea that if we could create a health and wellness platform, and Grant and I were customers of Gary Brecka and his wife Sage. And so we were getting our IVs from them, and they had tried to do a few things, but they were small business owners. So they ran into the same resistance at 2 or 3 million, 6 family members, some broken partnerships, everyone fighting with each other. So I told Gary, look, we'll buy your company and make you part of our company. So we bought their company. It was called Streamline Medical. It was doing $2.5 million in revenue. And I renamed it to 10X Health. And then a year later, I bought another company called Health Gains, which had a tech stack, a direct-to-consumer approach for healthcare and wellness. And I put the tech stack in with the things that we developed with Gary from testing, genetics testing, and then supplementing and bridging certain aspects of your genetic breaks. And Gary was a genius in figuring all that out. We built the systems, we built the supplementation process, and we launched that in the marketplace.
Wow.
And then that evolved to us taking the tech stack direct to consumer, the idea, and we put it together, and we built a $75 million business in 2 years. Then we went from that, buying 2 businesses, investing a couple million to a $75 million business. And then I put just under $10 million into a global company that we negotiated a global exclusive supply agreement with a state-of-the-art innovative supplementation manufacturer that's precision supplementation based on your exact DNA and blood. And it's up to 100 microdoses manufactured specifically for you on those breaks across your genetic disposition in order to optimize your human health and wellness. But it doesn't just stop there. We have fat blockers and carb blockers based on your DNA to help you process better so you can be thinner, eat more of what you want, have your body naturally working. Because it's about getting your body to go back to naturally working for you instead of you trying to do things to force your body to increase its capacity. Why don't you just get the natural body working for itself, right? And get the drugs out, get the chemicals out, and get the supplementation that you're deficient in that gets your body healthy again, right? So this is our approach: health, wellness, and longevity.
It's reverse aging in a way, right? As well.
100%, because once you're supplementing your body, once you're feeling amazing, once you start working out again, once you start eating. So our precision platform goes from IVs, precision IVs that now you have formulated specifically on your genetics, right, and your blood, right? Precision supplementation up to 100 microdoses a day to optimize your body. Fat blockers to make sure you block in carbs and stuff that are not good for you. Then it's going to go over to food, precision food, and it goes to precision skin and precision performance. So we've been mapping. This is a 12-year-old database, 47 countries, triple blind reviewed platform, and we're the only ones in the world because we took a bunch of different relationships, put them under one partnership, and we're launching, and that's why we're here, because we're
already launched or not yet?
47 countries. We're up and operational.
How it's like the consumer journey? Like, I want to be part of 10X Health. What should I do?
And by September, October, you will have multiple locations here you can go to and start your journey with us.
Wow. So they're going to be an offline kind of 10X Health, like units, clinics?
Yeah, we have clinics here already. We have 2 locations under our Revive partnership. One in Abu Dhabi, one up here in Dubai. We're going to have probably 8 to 12 locations in the country. It'll all be state of the art. It's the whole precision platform. It's our red light therapy platform. It's going to be the whole wellness journey, optimization journey, and longevity journey.
Wow, I would love to be part of that. How do you define success to yourself? Like passing all this at 29 years old, ringing the bells, building, exiting 77 times the EBITDA. What's success to you?
Well, I have a funny way. First, my own personal targets. So my first target was to be worth 10 million in my 20s. And then it was to be worth 75 million. These are all what my mentors told me. And then I wanted to be worth 350 million by 55. And then I wanted to be worth $1 billion by 60. And then I wanted to be worth 10 billion. That was kind of like when I was 25, that's what I saw for myself. I hit my 10 million, lost it, started over, sold my business for 77 times. I hit my 47-year-old target of 75 million. It was actually 100. And at 56 now, I'm now worth about $450 million. So I'm hitting my targets. That to me is very important, because if I'm not hitting my targets, I can't in good faith stand in front of people and tell them it's important to set your targets. And I'm very public about my targets. I've been talking about my targets from day one. It's all on video. Everyone can see every year what my numbers are and what I said they'd be 3 or 4 years ago. Okay. How I define success, though, is I have this running calculator. I've created 286 millionaire multimillionaires in my career. My goal is to get 1 million 10X business owners to be millionaire multimillionaires. And that is my goal, because if I hit 1 million millionaire multimillionaires of people I'm working with, I'm partnered with, I will hit my target of $100 billion under management. I don't need to own the 100 billion. I just need to own enough that makes me worth 10 million. That leaves... And then my partner needs to be worth 10 billion for my activities, because we're 50-50. My partners, right? That's our goal. So the other 80 billion can be wealth creation from the million people I help. And if I do that right, I'm helping tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, of working people all over the world. So my target gets really small from 1 million 10X business owners, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of workers, because everybody's on our personal, professional, financial goal planning. That's the equity we teach business owners to use with their teams. So helping people set, hit targets, hit their goals, and collaborate with the business owners in order to take the friction out of the business. This is very core because no great business, you cannot cite one great business that was built by any one person.
True.
You have to develop a loyal team who's competent, who wants to succeed with you, and therefore you must make sure they're winning with you. If you do those things, you're going to build an unbelievably beautiful business. And my target is 1 million 10X business owners around the planet, hundreds of millions of key people on PPF, personal, professional, financial goal planning, $100 billion portfolio. I'm worth $10 billion. I've helped my partner add an extra $10 billion, and we're living the best version of ourselves, helping people all over the world.
You're from the few people, also like 1% people that have different languages speaking. You talk numbers. Everything is numbers. 10 years ago it was like this, now it's like that. 3 years ago like this. How many clients? How important numbers that people speak numbers rather than wishy-washy talks?
So let me tell you the number one reason that business owners failed. When we went back and talked to the 97% that failed and surveyed them, when we asked them questions, the number one question is, how much do you expect to grow next year? There was 3 answers. 45% said they want to stop declining. 2/3 said some number, and then the balance said some percentage. So when we asked them, well, what percent, how did you pick your percentage? There was 3 answers. It's what I've done in the past, it's what I was told I should be able to do, or it's what I always wanted to do. When we asked them the revenue numbers, how did you pick the revenue numbers? It's what I've done in the past, it's what I've always wanted to do, or what I was told I should be able to do. We called that reflection point 1A. Future predictability in the business based on historical results. So if I'm losing every year, I'm just hoping I don't lose, but I expect to lose.
True.
If I'm winning by some percent every year, 10% growth, I'm like 10% growth is my target. If I'm adding $1 million a year or $500,000 a year, then all of a sudden it's like, I want to add $500,000.
True.
So future predictability based on historical results. But we were able to prove that none of those methodologies actually had anything to do with the business opportunity, the market opportunity, anything. It's just what they've established as a mindset and grooved into their belief system. So I tell everybody, if you want to actually take advantage of the market opportunity, there's 3 other reflection points. You have what you believe based on historical results. You have what others have proven. And then you have a combination of what others have been able to drive in a micro market from a percentage. So if you're sitting in a market where you're like, oh, I'm trying to go from 1 million to 1.5 million, and I have 1% of the market, what about if somebody actually has 28% of the market? What would that size be for your business? You realize, wait a minute, I'd be 38 million. Why am I talking about 1.5 million, right? But you don't have those reflection points. And until big data is coming out, you don't have access to it. But if I'm a big company and I'm 150 to 200 million and I've got a professional team and I have science and I have data and I have automation and I have AI and I have all these things, I have all that. So what business owners need to understand when they're small is they are deficient of information.
They don't have the info, and they don't look for the information.
And they don't look for it. They just keep doing the same old thing until it doesn't work anymore. And so there's 3 lids in business. A lid is a cap. John Maxwell talks about 21 irrefutable laws, law of the lid. It's a cap. You have 3 lids. You have your belief lid, and if your belief is low, your activity is low. If your belief's super high, your activity is super high.
True.
You have your operational effectiveness lid. If your effectiveness in pursuit of your goals is poor, you'll actually lower the belief of the people around you, so they're not going to help you, and you'll eventually lower your own belief.
True.
All that is driven off of me leadership. How high is my leadership ability? And once I get to 3 to 5 million, it's no longer my leadership ability. It moves to we leadership because I have to develop a team. And then once I'm 25 to 50 million, it moves to what's called us leadership, which is the cultural leadership in the organization.
Overall.
If you know those are the lids and you understand what you need to do to move through those lids, it's just as easy as doing it. But if you don't know the lids exist and you're always running against hardship and resistance and the one employee who leaves and the person who steals from you and the one customer who's pissed at you and you're living in that'll lower your belief, lower your operational effectiveness, lower your leadership lid. And anytime one lever goes down in your 3 lids, all of them start to go down.
True.
So you have to set the mindset that I am going to be intentional about elevating my belief. The business owner has to own the decision to believe more every day. That means you need to go find data that supports the belief, not data to undermine it. So instead of talking about what's going on in the economy, say, I don't give a shit what's going on in the economy. I care what my best competitor is doing to kick my ass. And I'm going to get better. Your operational effectiveness must improve every day. Those 5 things I talked about must be improving all the time. You're always talking about those things improving, and all 5 of those things, by the way, are numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie, people do.
Exactly.
Just remember that. And your operational effectiveness is managed through charting and graphing success. If you're not charting and graphing against numbers, it's a universal principle, then you have no idea how you're doing.
True.
And then if you don't know how you're doing, your leadership becomes emotional, not structural, so it becomes difficult and ineffective because you're not pointing people to the specific areas of success that drive value. So understanding the 3 lids, belief, operational effectiveness, me, we, us, leadership, and how they all work mechanically together. As you're growing through the growth cycle, you enter a break point. Your leadership is much lower at 3 million than what it has to be at 25.
True.
You got to know you can't be the same person at 25 that you were at 3, or you won't make it. You'll go out of business. So you as the owner and you as the me leader, then we leader, because now you have to tell your leadership team you have to grow or you can't be a leader.
True. Or you step out.
Or I remove you or you step out. And then the culture has to take over, which means you have to be driving such a strong culture, which is why legal, moral, ethical, and compliant. Because if you're out of those 4 categories and you get to 25, 30 million, people will just start leaving because they realize this is all short term. We know mechanically, we've been able to graph this, chart it, document it, research it, 10,000 businesses, and we're proving it every single day. So when someone meets me and they say, how can you be so confident? Because I meet people like you all day, all over the world, that we help. You're in India, you're in China, it doesn't matter. You're in Denmark, and you're like, we did your shit and our business is blowing up. I've got enough of that to know what we do works everywhere in the world across any business that is legal, moral, ethical, or compliant.
Poof. I want to pass quickly about the book.
Yes.
Your book is more about the mindset.
That's right.
What inspired you to write this kind of book?
I started writing that book in 2011. But I felt like I had never actually accomplished my stated objective. Then I sold my business for one of the highest prices ever paid. And one of my mentors, who runs a $35 billion global private equity group, he's been a mentor for 30 years. He says, yeah, Brandon, you got a new problem. You sold your business for one of the highest values ever, which you said you were going to do. But here's the problem. If the business that acquires you doesn't get the value back, no one's ever going to buy any more of your businesses. So it sucked me back into operationalizing. So we added $4.5 billion. Then I'm like, I'm ready to write my book. I proved my concept of what I was thinking about worked. I proved the research worked. I sold for one of the highest values, shared the wealth, wired $40 million to my customers and my employees instead of shareholders. So I proved that model worked. I was first person to do it. Now you're talking about blockchain, NFTs, you're talking about coins, you're talking about wallets, you're talking about all this stuff that people are trying to get pushed through the SEC. I was the first guy to innovate that. I just did it on a manual process, right? So now we're taking that technology and we're deploying it into what's happening with these businesses now. That really helps on binding your long-term employees to see how they can share value. So for me, the book, going back to the book, I kept putting it off. John Maxwell said to me, if you don't put the book out on how you got to here, then your second and your third book won't make any sense. Because I've already written 80% of the second book, and I've already titled, and I'm writing the third book. Well, the third book wouldn't have made sense if I didn't write the first book, because people wouldn't have understood how I got there. So the first book was 9-figure mindset, how to go from 0 to $100 million net worth. The second book is going to be on the 10X operating system, everything I just described, and with examples of all the different kinds of businesses and successes.
It's still not out.
No, that one's about 80% done. The third book is the 10-figure mindset. I already own the domain. I already got the cover getting worked on, because I'm going to go from a 9-figure in 60 months to a 10-figure value. And I've had to document how I got to basically 2023.
It's not just theory.
No. And at the end of 24, we will have the new book out on how to do it. And then in 25, after I prove the valuation, I will put out the 10-figure mindset. Oof. And people will say, this guy has made a statement every single year for the last 15 years, and he's done exactly what he said he was going to do. And I'm not doing that to prove that I was right. I'm doing that to give confidence to people that if you do it right, you can go create whatever world. The biggest gift Hector Lamarck gave me when I thought everything went away and I had to start over was this. Brandon, you as a human being have the power to create. What you put your mind to, what you choose to do, what you take action in, and what results you get will either build your confidence about the possibilities or it'll deteriorate it. Once you have high confidence, you can teach other people and elevate their confidence. And if you can create momentum where you can help others achieve their goals, and then they can help others achieve their goals, long term you'll create so much energy that you can't help but be successful. And I chose to do that starting in 2004, and I just need to be able to prove it every single day to give confidence to the rest of the human beings that it's possible.
But I love you have a plan, even for the books. Like the roadmap of the books. People plan for one, they finish it. You have a plan for 3 down the line. Right. If I ask you what is your favorite failure to date, what will be the one that you're grateful for?
One word in a document this thick that allowed somebody else to control my destiny. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I operated from intellectual arrogance and ignorance, and I didn't ask. If I would have gone to the board and said, this is the deal I'm doing, but I was so dead set on proving to everybody I was right. I didn't talk to anybody. I wanted to surprise them, and I used one word out of an agreement this thick that violated an agreement this thick that gave them the right to sell my company. If I just went to them, they would have had the fiduciary duty. They would have had to tell me, you can't use the word debt, use these words, and we'll be fine. The biggest failure was thinking I knew. Any entrepreneur I meet that thinks they know. You know what number one secret I have? I already know. I don't know. I know if I research it enough and I find people who have actually done it, I will learn to know. Learning to know is the difference between those that succeed and those that fail. Thinking you know, you'll fail. Learning to know, you'll win every day.
True. And if I flip it, your proudest accomplishment?
Oh, God.
A lot down the line.
You know, I got my kids. I got my remarkable wife. I've got phenomenal partners. I think the biggest accomplishment is learning to control this and this and creating what I want.
It's very hard. Yeah.
Because the world's actually always trying to pull that away from you.
Can I ask you why, when I ask you your biggest accomplishment, your eyes watered a little? Yeah, why? I felt, like extreme gratitude.
Yeah. It's been hard.
Yeah.
And I deal in a world, people see me on stage, I teach, I'm a chief operating officer, yeah. I'm a chairman of multiple companies, I'm a hard ass.
Yeah.
But the world I really live in is most of the entrepreneurs that are struggling or failing come to me to try to save the business. Yeah. So my real job is being a expert turnaround.
True.
And when you're doing that in the small business space, businesses under $250 million, they're almost 87% are family oriented. So when the business fails, the families fail.
Exactly.
When the families fail, the communities fail. And boy, it's painful. Yeah. So I have to live in the world of fixing those things. That's really where my expertise is. And so I talk about where we're pushing to and what we're doing, but really I am a expert turnaround business.
One.
And it's tough because there's so many people and there's more businesses failing than succeeding. So while I'm always out talking about all the great stuff and all the amazing things we're doing, I'm taking all the emergency phone calls. I'm taking people who have died overnight and left their family with nothing. I have a $3.8 billion widower who believed their whole estate was set up, only to find out She owes hundreds of millions of dollars. She's getting 90 days to give it to her. The board she thought was her friends are saying, give us all your equity or we're taking your house. I mean, like, in 90 days, the whole world flipped because somebody died unexpectedly and didn't have their shit taken care of. So everyone up to that point is talking about what a genius the business owner is because he's built a $3.8 billion. But then his whole family's devastated because he didn't put any of the structural elements in place to take care of the one thing that was his biggest priority because he assumed he was going to win for life. And here's my promise. No matter how successful you become, no matter how successful you are, you will encounter breakpoints, personally, professionally, or financially, and you will not anticipate what they are. And when you do encounter them, the only question is, were you thoughtful enough? Were you operating with awareness and curiosity enough? Were you surrounding yourself with the right mentors and the right collaborators? Were you talking to the right people about the right things at the right time to make sure that you had other people helping you cross your T's and dot your I's? And if the honest answer is no, I don't care how much you're worth. I have watched billions get devastated overnight for what people didn't know because they chose to not surround themselves with people that they could actually hear because they thought they had it all figured out.
Yeah.
So here's the one thing I've learned. It's not what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you don't even know that you don't know you should know. And it will bite you in the ass. The only question is how prepared are you? And how prepared is your team? And how prepared is your checking account? Because it's coming.
You know, I should end the episode with this statement because it really hits hard and it's really true. I have a section called the Aqua Quick Fire, so I'll ask you very quick questions.
Sure.
So what's the first step to scaling a business?
Having the right model.
Biggest mistake entrepreneurs make when scaling?
Thinking they know.
Key quality you look for in a business partner?
Humility.
Most valuable lesson you've learned in business?
Be around big thinkers.
Best advice you've ever received?
You have the power to create. Use it.
What motivates you every day?
Watching other people just absolutely conquer their opportunities and change their lives.
One word to describe your leadership style?
Collaborative.
What the most important trait for an entrepreneur?
Courage.
What is the biggest challenge you've overcome?
Well, for me, it's thinking I knew and breaking everything.
Yeah. We have a nugget question in the show. When I ask the alpha guest to define an alpha, what's an alpha for you?
Somebody who has the emotional control to think huge, take the right action, surround themselves with the right people, drive the right results, and share it with everyone who helped make it happen. Because for those people, they can conquer and they can change communities, environments, results. Our country in the U.S. needs leadership. We are very quickly eroding our global presence. And I think that's an example of how fast you can take something that's so huge in less than a few years and weaken it to a place that is very dangerous. And business owners do that with their businesses all the time.
Wow. We have a section called the Alpha Quick Choices. So I'll ask you a couple of questions. You just pick one.
Okay.
So books or podcasts for learning?
Podcasts.
Face-to-face meetings or virtual conferences?
Face-to-face.
Scaling slowly with precision or rapid expansion with risks?
Rapid with precision.
Poof. Staying in control of all aspects or delegating key decisions?
Delegating.
Focusing on industry expertise or experience or seeking diverse perspectives?
Diverse perspectives with accomplished people.
Continuous improvement or bold, risky moves?
Continuous incremental improvement over the thing you can prove it works.
Maintaining work-life balance or work-life integration?
If your targets are set and you include your people, your work and your life is balanced because you're doing the things that you established are important to you and you're teaching others to do the same. If you're out of work life, it's because you're doing something wrong.
Celebrating small wins along the way or focusing on the big picture?
Both.
Small and big.
Every 90 days, celebrate your quarterly accomplishments. Every year, celebrate your annuals. And every 5 years, celebrate your 60-month run.
Wow. the next nugget question is I ask the alpha guest to ask me any question, whatever comes to your mind.
What's your big thing?
I'm making a movement, or I've created a movement called the Alpha Movement. And I would like to take it to the global scale, on a global level. Now it's more regional, and it's time to go global. Hit US, hit Europe with the Alpha Movement. It's been around for roughly 3 years now. That's the next thing.
And the intentionality behind the Alpha Movement. If you succeed, which you will, what is the impact?
For me, at this moment, enrolling as more people in the Alpha Movement, my target is by the end of next year, 50K people in the movement.
Okay. And what are they doing?
It's an online training platform, online training, offline conferences.
But what are they doing with the knowledge?
They're building their business, they're building their mindset. It's more about entrepreneurship, mindset, and personal branding.
Nice. There is no lack of need for people to understand those three things.
The next question, because I will be part of the next question, which is, how will people work with you?
How will they work with me? Yeah.
How can they apply to work with you? They want to scale. They want to get their thing up.
Well, CardoneVentures.com/events. We do 108 events a year. We just opened our UK office. We're going to be opening our UAE offices. We're opening in Asia. And we'll be a global company here in the next 15 months. But we have so many people that come to the U.S. to our events from all over the world. And so the easiest way is you can follow me, Brandon M. Dawson. You'll see our different events on Instagram, or you simply go to CardoneVentures.com/events, and you can see the hundreds of events. And you can pick an entry point. If you're struggling with marketing, pick that. If you're struggling with people, pick that. If you're struggling with strategy or operations or finance, pick it. Because what we do is we teach the granular details across the spectrum of how to start, grow, optimize, expand, transform, and then eventually exit a business. Those are all the topics. Like I just recruited my CFO, Eddie, and he was running global finance for KKR over the world, running $500 billion a year through his fingers. I have the most competent people on my team, and my partner is a world-renowned marketing and sales expert. Nobody has a better reputation. My mentor in leadership is John Maxwell. Like, just look at the people I've surrounded myself with and ask a question: how do I go get those people?
True. The engagement type with people engaging with Cardone Ventures is an events perspective, or there is like masterminds?
Yeah, so it starts at events, and then it goes to masterminds, and then it goes to people hiring us to engineer their business case. Then it goes to people hiring us to help manage their business, and then it goes to people we partner with. And along that journey, if we find somebody that has something and it's interesting and they're the right people, then we'll offer to collaborate and help expedite the growth. And that's really what we're doing. And we're launching our Cardone Equity Group so we can actually come alongside those business owners and acquire things around them to help them grow bigger, better, faster using our methodologies. And then we're giving access to our investors who are also our business owners who are saying, how do we diversify our net worth? So people that we've impacted are investing. I mean, that's, if you look at half a grant's $750 million that we've raised for Cardone Capital, it's from people we work with in business, driving more profits, and they're giving them to Grant so that while they're building their business, they can be investing. Exactly. But a lot of them also want to diversify in other businesses because they know how successful we are. So almost by necessity, we're launching Cardone Equity Group so they can co-invest with us into other businesses as well.
I love how you guys complement the businesses. It's really super amazing. What will be the last message you want to leave the audience with today?
Yeah. If you don't have somebody in your life right now that you can look to and answer the question, do they know and are they willing to help me? If you don't have that person in your life right now, go to CardoneVentures.com. Because I promise you, we know and we'll help you.
I love that. The last thing in the Alpha Talks, we have the Alpha Talks memoir, where the Alpha guest has to do a couple of things. One of them is to write their experience in the show, how they feel about the show, being in the show. And the second one is to ask a question to the next Alpha guest. Okay, so it's a way of connecting Alpha guests, but they don't know each other.
Yeah, that's great.
So now I'll ask you the question from the previous Alpha guest.
Sure.
If you can take over any business and make it better, what would it be? Anything. But I think you're covering everything.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that healthcare.
I wanted to ask you this actually, real, because you know you're exposed to many businesses,
Yeah.
extremely exposed to many businesses. But when you wanted to create a brand out of something, you created the health, the next
Health.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I was a direct benefactor of the work we do, and so was Grant, and so was so many friends and family. And Dana White of the UFC, if you follow him at all, we've changed his life as well. And we have thousands and tens of thousands of people behind him. In the United States, we spend $14,500 per capita for healthcare, and we rank next to Vietnam at 167, which spends $150 a year. It's horrible, and it's all reactive. And if you can get in front of that, there's so much opportunity for health, wellness, longevity. And even though I'm in the business of business thrives when people are healthy.
True.
Because
Without
unhealthy
health,
people
exactly.
cannot contribute.
True.
So it's a necessity for us to be optimized as human beings. And it's sad that the whole medical system has been built to sell chemicals, not optimize you, but to medicate the things that are wrong. So we, on a global basis, feel if we can get in front of that so you don't get sick to need the chemicals, then you won't be using and being interdependent and rely on the chemicals. So if our mission is really getting people off of chemicals, off of drugs, the only way we can do that, if we're serious and committed to it, is to build the largest global health system that allows people to opt into health and wellness before they have symptoms and issues with their body. And so we decided, instead of combating chemicals and manufacturers of chemicals, that we would build the largest health business, build relationships with people, prove, just like in business, if you focus on optimization and you make the right choices, you can have a phenomenal life.
True.
More energy than you ever thought you had, and you don't need to rely on chemicals to give you that. You can get it naturally. And so we're all aligned with that, and we want to change the world, and we want to deliver it at a cost that's not prohibitive, so every single person can have access to it. In order to do that, we need to get so big and scale so large that then we can deliver to every micro market the 100 things that every human needs every day to stay optimal. And we're so committed to that. But it also is phenomenal for forging and building relationships, because when you change people's health lives, they become your best friends. Look at Dana White. He's been talking about us for 2 years. He has no equity or ownership in the company. He loves the impact,
The result and the
the
transformation.
results. And he's been our biggest advocate, and we have so many more coming behind him and so many others alongside him, Steve Harvey and other people like that. So look, at the end of the day, I want to be able to deliver to the person who says, I can only afford $100 or $150 a month, but I want to live longer. I want to have wellness. I want to feel amazing. I want the right things in my body. And I don't need to spend money, a lot of money, on the wrong foods and all the other things, because I'm so alive. And if you can bring that at the core to a human being, all the other stuff is easy. So I look at the wellness and health aspect and longevity aspect as a necessity for business. So to me, it's the most exciting thing I've worked on, and it's going to be the biggest thing I've ever touched in my life, the fastest.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you today. I'm sure everybody watching this episode will get a lot, and I mean a lot of knowledge. It's been one of the best. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your show. Appreciate it.
That wraps another inspiring episode of today's show. I hope that this episode has ignited your inner alpha and left you feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to conquer any challenge that comes your way. Remember, alphas aren't born, they're made. It isn't about dominating others, it's about embracing your authenticity, leading with integrity, and making a positive impact on the world. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the Alpha Talks on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a review and share the podcast with your fellow alphas. Also connect with us on social media at Seif El Hakim. Share your thoughts, insight, and stories of personal and business growth with us. Let's create a movement of alphas supporting one another. The world needs more alphas like you exactly. Until next time, stay bold, stay driven, and stay alpha.